All right. Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Mokakadash, and the Heavenly Father. True name is Yahweh, and His unbegotten Son, Bahashem, in the name of Hamashiach, Yahweh Shai. Those are the true names in the ancient Paleo Hebrew of the Lashkadas, the Holy Tongue, and I say Barakatham to the elders and apostles, Wa'akim, Wa'akwaf, and I say Shalom. And this is a sit-down lesson of the prophecy updates as of June the 7th, 2026 on this Sunday morning. And the latest escalation continues to heat up between Hezbollah and the Israel Defense Force. A cross-border escalation has been heating up ever since, was that last week, the negotiations between Lebanon and Israel, which is the governor leaders of Lebanon, and the representations of the IDF, which they had a meeting, was that last week in Washington, D.C. They agreed to an extension of the ceasefire and then trying to have some type of agreement to fully remove Hezbollah and disarm them as well, too. But I believe it was a couple of days ago, you had Hezbollah was mentioning about twice, that they mentioned they rejected the ceasefire. And then you had Trump saying that the talks went well with them and Hezbollah. And then you had the leader of Hezbollah, I believe, saying that they definitely rejected the ceasefire, which was a partial, I believe it was a partial ceasefire. And then they didn't agree to it. Now you got and I believe what was that a couple of days ago, you had Iran was saying that if the Israel Defense Force or the United States to have continue to bomb southern Beirut, they potentially that might jeopardize the deal. Because in the deal, I believe Iran demanded to have stop the aggression attacks from the Israel Defense Force over there, throughout Lebanon and throughout Beirut as well too. Now, with that being said, we got the Israel Defense Force. They had used an airstrike over there in Beirut because you had Iran was warning them to not do that, because that's going to be part of the deal, with the United States. Now that the Israel Defense Force used airstrikes over there in Hezbollah, we're going to see how this plays out. We're going to see how the pro-Iranians. You're going to see Iran how they're going to respond to this. Is the negotiations, is that going to affect that Israel Defense Force did an airstrike over there? So we're going to see how it plays out in the next couple of days. It says updated 9 minutes ago, because you still got tensions are still heating up between Iran and Israel. So the tensions are still there, and especially proxy groups and the pro-Iranian groups going against the Israel Defense Force. So tensions are still there, despite the fact they came to despite the fact they had recent talks. It says Air Force strikes Beirut after Hezbollah fired rockets at North. Because keep this in mind, last week or a couple of days ago, you had one of the leaders of Hezbollah was saying that they rejected that partial ceasefire, what Trump announced last week. They were saying that northern Israel is not going to be safe because it's still going to be under military force, which is from the Hezbollah, which is a pro-Iranian group. Because you do got the pro-Iranian groups in southern Syria, over there in Iraq, Syria, and all those places over there in Lebanon, over there in Beirut as well too. It says Air Force rockets strikes Beirut after Hezbollah fired rockets at North. It says the IDF destroyed rocket launchers issued by Hezbollah at fire at North today. Issues evacuation warning from Tyre. Israel says that the Hamas group who participated in the October 7 was killed in a Gaza Strip. He was unalive, nigga. I said, scribe. 13 minutes ago, it says Trump says he will only lift sanctions at the deal. It's not demanding Lebanon to be part of a short-term agreement. Now, if Iran was keep on mentioning these red lines in like the nuclear part, I believe Iran's not going to agree upon it. Now, they do demand if Israel Defense Force stop the aggression of strikes over there in Lebanon, throughout Lebanon and throughout Beirut. Now, with this taking place, we're going to see how Iran is going to respond back to this, So this is going to be very interesting. This is going to be very interesting in the next, as of today and all the way into the next couple of days. So we're going to see how this plays out. Now we're going to see how Iran is going to respond. We're going to see the foreign minister of Iran and the negotiators. We're going to see how they're going to respond to this. Now that Israel Defense Force did a airstrike over there. This is and that's what you call, what's that, Matthew, the 24th chapter. Ye should hear of wars and rumors of wars. So these tensions between Iran and the Israel Defense Force is heating up on a daily basis. See if I can be able to. It says 42 minutes ago, Israel updated U.S. ahead of Beirut strike. A Saudi TV reports. Israel updated the United States ahead of its airstrikes in Hezbollah and Beirut. The Saudi Al-Haddad channel reports. The strike came in response to Hezbollah's rocket attack on the northern Israel, meaning a U.S.-backed ceasefire. Right, so we're going to see how Iran is going to respond to that. Because, they're saying this is in self-defense, supposedly. Because you had the IDF, they've been violating ceasefires as well too. So keep that in mind. So it's not only Hezbollah doing it, or the pro-Iranian groups, or the resistance of the Palestinians, or the resistance of Hezbollah. The Israel Defense Force been doing the same thing as well too. And that's what you call Isaiah 10 verse 1 of Unrighteous Creeds. It says 50 minutes ago, the U.S. resolution at a nuclear watchdog demands Iran provide information on bombed nuclear sites. I highly doubt if they are going to be able to do that. It says the health ministries prepare hospitals for the EBOL while chances of outbreak remains low. Last time I checked, it was remaining high, not low. That's that second Esdras 15 verse 5. And that Jeremiah 28 verse 8, war, evil, and a pestilence. And that's what we see in our world today. And this is I'm going to start off with that Matthew's 24th chapter, because Matthew's 24th chapter is definitely in full effect. And this is the book of Matthew's, because these are the signs before Yahweh Shemashah makes a return. And this is because he spoke about this 2,000 years ago. And now we start to see it occur in these times, especially with these wars and rumors of wars. And these are earthquakes in diverse places, and famines and pestilent plagues right along with it. And this is the book of Matthew. So I just want to add a side note to that. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 24, and verse 1. It says, and Yahushua went out to depart from the temple, and his disciples came unto him to show him the buildings of the temple. While the disciples of Yahushua, Paul, Peter, John, James, Andrew, Matthew 24 and verse 2, and it reads to the Holy Scriptures, and Yahushua say unto them, see ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. And this is the book of Matthew, chapter 24 and verse 3. And as he sat down upon the Mount of Olives, and the disciples came unto him private, saying, it says, tell us when shall these things be, and what should be the sign of thy coming in the world, right? Because the disciples, Yahushua asked him that question, was they that became apostles, Paul, Peter, John, James, Andrew. It says Matthew 24 and verse 4, and it reads, and Yahushua answered and say unto them, take heed that no man deceive you. Matthew 24 and verse 5, for many should come in my name, saying, I, Hamashiach Yahushua, shall deceive many. Matthew 24 and verse 6, It says, ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled, for all these things must first come to pass, but the end is not yet. Right, and that's what we see in our world today. Wars and rumors of wars. The tensions are heating up between Lebanon of Hezbollah versus the Israel Defense Force over there in Israel. So cross-border conflict still heating up, despite the fact they had recent talks. It says Matthew 24 and verse 7. For nation shall rise against nation. Yep, Hezbollah versus the Israel Defense Force. Cross-border conflict, nation against nation. Russia versus Ukraine. Iran versus Israel. Iran versus the Israel Defense Force. Iran versus the United States armies over there in Strait of Hormuz. And self-defense acts on both sides. For nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom, which goes into ethnos. China versus Taiwan. Pakistan versus Afghanistan. It says there shall be famines and pestilence, earthquakes in diverse places, right? Because you had a 6.1 earthquake over there in Russia. And then you had the famines and pestilence are increasing with this EBOL outbreak increasing. This Hanta V word increasing, and different type of various of famines and pestilence, plagues and earthquakes in diverse places. It's going to intensify, and that's what we're seeing. Matthew 24 and verse 8, all these are the beginning of sorrows, right? So Yahushua says all these are the beginning of sorrows. And that's what we're seeing, biblical signs and signs of times. And this is Salakia. It's the book of Ecclesiasticus. Chapter 3, verse 1. This is the book of Ecclesiasticus 3 and verse 1. It says, to everything there is a season, and a time of every purpose of heaven. Right, so we live in the modern day times of seasons and every purpose of heaven, which is biblical signs and signs of times. This is drop down to verse 8. It says, in a time to love, in a time of HATE, in a time of war, in a time of peace. Right, so we still live in a time of war, and we still live in a time of HATE. And I believe you had some incident over there. What was that, yesterday? If I can be able to go to it. Over there in the Middle East, where you had this individual. I think this was yesterday. You had some individual. One was unalive and 5 were injured in a central Israel terror shooting spree by Arab Israeli. It says 2 men in serious condition after a rampage in community bordering the West Bank, North, right? Because the West Bank, the West Bank been heating up. Tensions been heating up between both sides, between the IDF troops and the resistance of the Palestinians. So the scriptures do say Ishmael shall be a wild man these days, and we definitely seeing that because tensions been heating up for the past couple of days. This past weekend, over there in the Middle East, which is Western Asia. It says 2 men in serious condition after a rampage in community borders, West Bank, north of Tel Aviv. One predator was unalive, an alleged accomplice arrested. That's that spirit created for vengeance. Love of many, a wise code, Matthew, the 24th chapter that Yahushua spoke about. And this is the book of Matthew, chapter 24 and verse 12. Because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. Right, so we're seeing Yahushua says the love of many wax cold. We ain't seeing signs of that. And this is the book of 2 Timothy, chapter 3, verse 1. It says, this know also that in the last days perilous times shall come. Right, so also in the latter days perilous times shall come. This is the book of Luke 21 and verse 25. It says, and there shall be signs in the sun, in the moon, and the stars, and upon the earth transgressive nations, or perplexity, whereas war, right? We're seeing the signs, sun, the moon, stars that Yahushua spoke about. We're seeing that increasing on a daily basis. And then we're seeing the uptick of the nations are in perplexity, the nations are in distress, and that's what we're seeing. Because we're seeing the uproars of people in the world. We're seeing nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom. We're seeing sedition among men, uncertainty among the nations while these signs are taking place, taking place near them in that inner circle, that outer circle around the world. And that's what we're seeing. Read that again. Ecclesiasticus 3 verse 1. To everything there is a season and a time for every purpose in heaven. Right, so we live in these times of seasons and every purpose in heaven. Verse 2, in a time to be born, in a time to die, in a time to plant, in a time to pluck up the which is planted. Verse 3, in a time to kill. Yeah, we live in those times, a time to kill, because lawlessness, iniquity, and spirit creative events are increasing. In a time to heal, because the Heavenly Father, He's balanced. What's that? Isaiah 45 verse 7, Ecclesiastes 12 verse 14. In the book of Deuteronomy 32nd chapter, verse 4, in a time to weep, in a time to laugh, in a time to mourn, in a time to dance. Verse 5, in a time to cast away stones, in a time to gather stones, in a time to embrace, in a time to refrain from embracing. Ecclesiastes 3 verse 6, in a time to get, in a time to lose, in a time to keep, in a time to cast away. Ecclesiasticus 3 and verse 7, in a time to reign, in a time to sow, in a time to decide, in a time to speak. Right, so we're in the times of prophecies are speaking, just like it says in the book of Habakkuk 2 and verse 3. For the vision shall be upon the time, and shall speak, not lie, tarry, wait for it, because of shooting. Because it's not tarrying no more, because biblical signs are increasing. Ecclesiasticus 3 verse 8. In a time of love, in a time of HATE, in a time of war, time of peace, right? So we still live in a time of HATE, because iniquity is abounding. What's that? 1 John 3 verse 4. Whosoever come into sin also transgress the law, for sin is transgress the law. So that lets you know we still live in a time of lawlessness, iniquity is abounding still, and we still live in a time of war, so that's only going to continue to increase. So hopefully this was edifying. This was a sit-down lesson of the prophecy updates, news updates, as of June the 7th, 2026, on this Sunday morning. So hopefully this was edifying. And with that, I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh B'Hashem, Yahweh Shai B'Hashem, or called Kadash, and the Heavenly Father. True name is Yahweh, and His only begotten Son, B'Hashem, in the name of Hamashiach, Yahweh Shai. Those are the true names in the ancient Paleo Hebrew, the Lashkulas, Holy Tongue. And I say Barakatham to the elders and apostles, Wa'akim, Wa'akwaf. Till next time, I will say Kwame Sharala and the Bible Ball. Shalom.